Hello, and welcome to the Reasonable Music Review, the show where I review music before looking at any other opinions on the internet. Thanks for watching. AJR, more like I love elephants, and I am always shocked at how gray they are. In terms of their complexion. So before we get into the video, I want to make a small disclaimer, and that's that this review is going to be more negative than the ones I made previously. And the only reason I point that out is to say to any AJR fans that if you are a fan of AJR, if AJR is important to you, if they are personal to you, that is okay. I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't listen to them, and I'm not trying to discredit something that is incredibly important to you. So just know that these are my opinions. I'm trying to be as objective and as reasonable as I possibly can be. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm not trying to degrade AJR. I'm just being honest about my opinions. So to be honest, I have a lot of thoughts about this EP. I have a lot of thoughts about AJR. A lot of those thoughts I can make entire videos about, and I might. And if any of that is of interest to you, feel free to comment and let me know. Just for the sake of time and for brevity, I'm just going to jump straight into this EP and talk about the things that I like, the things that I dislike, and then just wrap it up from there. Because to be honest, I just don't really know where to start with this EP. So my first positive for this EP is that I'm very glad that they decided to strip the EP down and make it more acoustic and make it a little bit more calm, because one issue that I've had with AJR in the past is that it's very difficult to take their music seriously sometimes, and that's for a variety of reasons, which, like I said, I can make an entire video about. But one of those reasons is that I feel like sometimes their instrumentals and their lyrics are at a juxtaposition. Like there are times when their lyrics will be trying to deal with very heavy or sad topics, and the instrumental will just be very boisterous and loud and distracting in the background, or sometimes even like happy in the background, and it's confusing. And I will say that I actually do like a lot of their instrumentals. I think their instrumentals are better than a lot of people give them credit for, and a lot more skillful than a lot of people give them credit for. In general, I think their instrumentals show a lot of creativity, even if the creations aren't always amazing. But I say all that to say that I think that juxtaposition between instrumentals and lyrics is mostly gone on this album. Like, I like that the songs that are intending to be more emotionally provocative are just stripped down and calm and don't have the super grand crescendos that a lot of AJR songs do. There are still a few like glints of that juxtaposition, like with things like On a Dog Song with shut it down ad-lib, and like the descending Disney-esque windy swirl that's put in a couple times. Like those things were a little odd and distracting, but they were so minute that it really wasn't that big of a deal. So my second positive for this album is the subject matter and a lot of the topics that they select. I think the topics are a lot better and a lot more emotionally grounded and a lot more original than a lot of their other work. Like The Plane That Never Lands, A Dog Song, and I'm Sorry That You Went Crazy carry some genuine emotional weight to them. In particular, I really like that I'm Sorry You Went Crazy is so specific. I like songs that are directed towards specific people about specific events that are very authentically personal to whoever's writing it. And we get just that. Like, it's a very emotionally authentic track dedicated towards presumably their mother from the research that I've done. And I think they pull it off pretty well. The same thing goes for The Plane That Never Lands. I wouldn't say that this song is groundbreaking or like overly profound, but I think it's a cute, somewhat clever way to get across the point that they're trying to get across. To be honest, when I first turned on this song, I thought it was just going to be listing satirical things that no one thinks about for the entire song. So I was happy that like they actually had an emotional turnaround at the end and an emotional narrative at the end. And I like that the final line of, or not the final line, but one of the final lines of, do you want to marry me, dear, kind of carries some different interpretations. Like, is he asking because he's hesitant? Is he asking because he knows that she's going to say no? Is he asking because he's scared to commit? Like, there are some different interpretations to that. It's not incredibly profound, but it's something. One tiny criticism of the song, though, is I don't really understand why it's called The Plane That Never Lands when the EP is titled What No One's Thinking, because the title of the EP is very clearly referring to this song, but yet the song is titled The Plane That Never Lands, so why not just have this be the title track for the EP? The last positive that I'll list for this album is I think that the production on The Big Goodbye is pretty clever and creative. It's a little goofy. It's a little over the top. I could see some people maybe not liking this, but I like it. I think it's cute. Okay, so before I jump into the negatives, I do want to give it a little bit of context as to my history with AJR. I discovered AJR in 2017 when I was 12, and at the time I was really into those like Trap Nation beats where they would remix the Pokemon theme song or something and turn it into like this melodramatic grand piece. So suffice to say, I thought AJR was like the best thing ever when I discovered them. I thought they were very, very cool. But over the years, as I got older, it was harder and harder for me to listen to their music and to appreciate their music for a variety of reasons that I can make a whole video about. But kind of chief among them is that whenever they talk about heavy or sad topics, I find it incredibly hard to take their lyricism and their point of view seriously. And I can make an entire video about that and list a bunch of examples. But to stick strictly to this EP, even though this EP is better in that regard, and I think it is more emotionally grounded and more emotionally authentic, that issue is still there. It's still a little hard to take them seriously. Just looking at the lyrics of this album, there are some instances where the lyrics will just really take you out of it with these overly playful, overly on the nose, kind of goofy lines that just don't let you fully sink into the emotion of the song. Like I said, I think this EP does have some genuinely emotional concepts in it, but their style of production and their style of lyricism just makes it very, very difficult to sink into that emotion. Maybe for some people, they like that they break the tension. Maybe it's a good thing that they just don't really let you settle into one emotion. But for me, I really don't like that. And similar to that idea is honestly just their vocal performance. I want to be really gentle here because these songs are very clearly personal to AJR, and I'm not trying to just like hate on them or be mean or be mocking of them, but just to be honest about what I'm thinking. On A Dog Song and I'm Sorry You Went Crazy, even though I recognize that the lyrics are very sad and they are talking about very sad concepts, the vocal performance does just take me out of it, especially in I'm Sorry You Went Crazy. I'll put up the lyrics where I feel like you can hear what I'm talking about the most, but a lot of the time, like Ryan's voice just sounds like a child singing on the guitar. And like I said, I don't say that to be rude or to be mocking. I just like genuinely, when I'm hearing it, it keeps reminding me of a child on a guitar, like just the way that he says sorry and apartment. The bones of the song are good, like the melody is good, the subject matter is good, the instrumentals are good enough, but it's just like the vocal inflection really just takes me out of it. Like I think this song could be great if it was like a Phoebe Bridgers type person singing on this track that's really able to like feel the grit and the sadness of the lyrics. But I just feel like Ryan still feels like a very happy little kid who's singing over these very intense topics, which maybe some people find value in that. I personally don't like it. So I brought up A Dog Song a second ago, and I think that song illuminates another flaw of AJR, and that's their frequent use of the trope where they sing from something lesser or younger of them, whether that be a baby or them in their childhood or them as a teenager or just them at some point in the past, or in this case, a dog. I could make an entire video on this concept and why I don't think that they pull it off, but I want to stress that I don't think that this writing trope is inherently bad. Like it's fine if you want to write from the perspective of you as a kid or from somebody else's perspective, but I just don't think that they have ever pulled it off very well. So I say that to say that when I realized that A Dog Song was being sung from the perspective of a dog, I was just like instantly kind of rolled my eyes and was worried, like, okay, they're doing it again. I will say that fortunately, I think that this was their best instance of using that trope. Like I think they used this the most effectively that they ever have. It's a good idea. It's a sweet idea. It's a very gentle and kind way to talk about the passing of their late father and their response to that. And I want to be very respectful of that subject matter. But nevertheless, this line just took me out of it. Like if you're going to sing from the perspective of a dog, that's fine, but you're kind of then limited in your perspective and exactly what you can talk about. And I think they do a good job at limiting themselves throughout the song. But in this one line, like, am I really supposed to think that a dog said this? Like, really? I don't know. This seems like a little wise and a little profound. And there's a line where they say we're instead of your, which like implies that the dog is also arguing with the group, which I don't think is necessarily accurate. So that just feels like a slight flaw where they accidentally broke outside of the perspective. I don't want it to sound like I'm being nitpicky, but it's just like, it's hard not to notice these things when like I have so many other criticisms of their other uses of this tropes, which I could get into in a separate video. But just like when there's so many other instances of them not using this trope well, it's frustrating when they have like a good idea for a song and they just don't fully execute on it. Like this song actually I think could be pretty cute. So my next negative is just the song Betty as a whole. The instrumentals and the melodies are fine enough and I'm not really going to talk about those, but it's strictly the lyrics that bother me about this song. Like this song about not being man enough or bold enough to face them or whatever just annoys me on a personal level because if this song is spoken from Jack's perspective and it is about one of Jack's experiences, it just doesn't really make sense to me because like how could you not be bold enough to talk to them in person, but you're like bold enough to write about them very parasocially in a song, put that song on a music video and have it be really big and have it being one of the lead songs for your EP. So that's just not like an adult thing. And if the song is a ballad and it's a fictional story, okay, fine. You can ignore what I just said. But then in that case, like why pick such a boring subject matter for a ballad? Like if you're going to write a fictional story, a fictional ballad for your song, like pick something interesting, pick like something a little bit more inventive and intriguing and a little less cliche. Coincidentally, I actually have the exact same criticism of Taylor Swift's song Betty. I like that song a lot more than this one, but nevertheless it's still the same thing. Like if you're going to write a ballad, just choose something a little bit more inventive than just a typical love song, you know? And I think, like, honestly, my biggest criticism of the song is that it just isn't really saying anything. It's just moping. And I don't want that to sound harsh or insensitive to, like, the problems that Jack might be facing, but just I feel like as a songwriter, it is your job to write about things in an interesting way and to write about things with calls to action, or to, like, cause your listeners to think about their issues in inventive ways. But this song just doesn't do that. It's just talking about, like, not being comfortable being an adult, not being comfortable committing, and blah, 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 which is, like, not inherently bad to talk about in a song, but that's just all that we've heard for, like, 8 years. Like, every single album deals with these exact same concepts, but in an incredibly uninteresting and repetitive way. And that concept leads me to The Big Goodbye, which is probably my biggest gripe with the album. So to preface my criticism of this song, I want to stress again, I'm not trying to be harsh, I'm not trying to be rude. I am sick and tired of hearing AJR singing about growing up. Like, it's fine for one album, it's fine for maybe 2 or a couple songs, but just every single album is about the concept of growing up, and it's just, like, annoying. Like, dude, just grow up. I'm sorry if that sounds rude or harsh. I'm not trying to be mean, but just, like, from an artistic perspective, it's so frustrating because it's just singing about the same thing over and over and over again. And, like, you could do that. You could sing about the same thing over and over again if you wrote about it in new and interesting ways, or if you wrote about them in constructive ways that, like, leads your listeners to thinking about their issues in a new way, or inspires them to get out of bed and try harder or whatever. But none of their songs do that. It's all just moping. And you might ask, like, why does it matter? Like, if I don't like listening to this, I can just turn it off. It doesn't matter. But it matters because the majority of people listening to this song are very young, impressionable, angsty people who are just listening to constant moping. This music doesn't do anything for those people. Like, this is going to sound very harsh, but this music holds down and punishes the only people that can relate to it, which is just not good at all. And there's just, like, a funny irony in it because they've sung about growing up for, like, 8 years and have shown virtually no growth in their lyricism that entire time. And just to be fair and not be, like, incredibly harsh or rude or negative, this song does show, like, a modicum of growth, where I think, like, the message of this song is just being, like, okay with things being in the past and trying to move forward, and talking about, like, the balance of ambition, but also, like, respecting where you came from and wanting to appreciate where you came from. So, like, I can respect that there's a little bit of growth, but I'm still just tired of it after, like, 8 years. And just, like, this entire section of the, like, we'll see you at the 10-year reunion, go on, kid, keep whatever. I'm just, like, I don't want to hear the word kid anymore in their music. I don't want to hear about high school anymore. I just feel like as an artist, your music has to grow with you, and we've just seen no growth. And I'm sorry to Jack if, like, that is the case, where there has been no growth and you've been stuck in a rut for this long. Like, I hate that. I'm not trying to wish that on anybody, but just from a musical perspective, like, it is hard to be a mature adult and listen to this music, because I just personally feel like this music doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't do anybody any good at all, and I see that as irresponsible as songwriters. I know that they're trying. I know that they probably think that singing about all these relatable things is a good thing, but writing about them in this way is just not. And my evidence for that are reels like this. A lot of people have made fun of this guy, and I'm not trying to do that. I think that's wrong. This is a complex human being, and I'm not trying to minimize him to this reel, but I just want to stress that, like, this is not normal adult behavior, and I'm not saying that any of this is directly AJR's fault, but from my view, in my opinion, AJR's music validates and encourages behavior like this. Like, if your music inspires somebody to think that, like, making a video like this is emotionally deep or mature or thought-provoking, I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed in your music. I get that that's super harsh and I'm probably caring a little too much about it, but, like, stuff like this matters, dude. Like, it really does. People listen to music so much and it consumes so much of their life. So if they're constantly listening to this mopey, melodramatic kind of nothing, it's not good for them. Like, this is not good for the improvement of their life and their mind, especially not when the majority of people listening to this are so young and impressionable and angsty. It's just not a good thing. I think AJR has a lot of talent and they have a lot of potential, especially in their instrumentals and a lot of their melodies. Like, these are talented dudes. I think they're excellent performers from everything that I've seen, but just the way that they approach their lyricism is a genuine problem, in my opinion. It is not a good thing. And I'm not trying to make fun of them by saying that. I'm not trying to spread hate towards them or say that you shouldn't like them. Like, if you have found growth from them, if you have used them to grow yourself, or you find their music to be thought-provoking, that's great. Like, tell me why I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. I want to be proven wrong, but I just, like, can't see that in their music. Like, all their music inspires you to do is just go, yeah, man, life is hard. Wow. Man, I'm sad right now. It just doesn't provoke you to think about it in any sort of interesting way. Like, it just doesn't inspire you. It doesn't have any sort of call to action. And I'm not saying that every single song ever needs that. It doesn't. But, like, if you're going to make music strictly about a problem and not have a narrative or a conclusion or a message, I think you at least need to write about that problem in an interesting way, or a way that like provokes the listener to think about things in a new way. But just by saying like, yeah, man, life is hard, I don't know how to be an adult, doesn't do that. It doesn't do any of that. It's just saying a sentence that is helpful to nobody, but tons of people cling to and think is super deep. It's not good. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I think I'm going a little too far and getting a little too rambly. But overall, I do think that this EP is an improvement. Do I think it's particularly great? No, I probably won't revisit it. I could see some people liking this, so maybe give it a shot if you're interested, but I probably will not revisit this one. But once again, I do see it as a incremental improvement. So I think if they continue down this route, and if they like actually capitalize off the growth of The Big Goodbye and stop singing about growing up and just move on to new concepts, we're in for a better AJR. But yeah, all right, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been a reasonable music review, or at least I'm trying to make a reasonable music review. Thanks for watching.